Welcome to our channel History of Coins, where we explore the hidden gems of numismatics. In today's video, we're diving into the fascinating world of rare quarter-dollar coins, cause some of these coins hold an incredible history, and some are worth millions. So today, we are gonna uncover the rarest varieties and their values. So make sure to watch the complete video and find out if you have one of these. Now let's continue our today's video. Top 1 today, we're taking a step back in time to look at a coin that, at first glance, seems like one of the most common pieces of American currency out there. But don't be fooled, because the 1965 Washington quarter is anything but ordinary. And some rare versions of this coin have sold for absolutely unbelievable prices. One, in particular, reportedly went for a jaw-dropping $81,000. Now, before you jump to your coin jar, stay with me, because I'm about to explain why this coin is so special, how history shaped its rarity, what errors make it a collector's dream, and how to spot one that might just change your life. Let's start with a little context. In 1965, something major happened in the world of American coinage. After decades of minting dimes, quarters, and half-dollars using silver, the U.S. Mint removed silver from these coins due to rising costs and a national coin shortage. The 1965 Washington quarter was the very first non-silver quarter to be minted in the U.S., marking a historic shift from 90% silver content to a copper-nickel-clad composition. This change might seem like just a technical detail, but it set the stage for something that collectors would hunt for decades to come: transitional errors. Here's the deal. While the official composition switched in 1965, some silver planchets, the blanks used to make coins, were accidentally left over from 1964 and struck with the 1965 date. That means a few 1965 quarters were made on 90% silver blanks, when they were supposed to be clad in copper and nickel. These are the coins collectors are obsessed with, and guess what? They're incredibly rare. You can't always tell by just looking, either. But if you weigh the coin and it comes in at about 6.25 grams, you may have found a silver version. The regular 1965 clad quarters typically weigh around 5.67 grams. That small difference can mean a massive jump in value. Now let's talk about minting errors, because this is where things get even more exciting. Point one of the rarest and most valuable errors involving the 1965 quarter is the off-metal strike. When a 1965 quarter was mistakenly struck on a planchet meant for a different denomination or metal type. There are examples of 1965 quarters struck on silver dimes, foreign coins, or even leftover 90% silver quarter planchets from the previous year. These mistakes are rare, fascinating, and highly valuable. There are also double die errors, where the coin's design appears slightly doubled, usually visible in the lettering or George Washington's profile. These errors are subtle, but collectors know to look closely. A doubled "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" can turn a regular coin into a rare collectible. And then you have clipped planchets, broad strikes, and off-center strikes, all of which can occur during the minting process when something goes wrong with the machinery. These types of errors make the coin visibly different from normal ones, and that uniqueness can command a serious premium. Let's not forget about condition. A 1965 quarter in average circulated condition may not seem impressive, but if you happen to find one in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially one graded MS-67 or MS-68 by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC, it could be worth hundreds, if not thousands, on its own. But combine a flawless condition with a major mint error, or better yet, a silver transitional strike, and you've just hit the numismatic jackpot. So why is this coin still flying under the radar? Well, because it looks so normal. Millions of people have handled 1965 quarters every day for decades without ever realizing they could be holding a fortune. Most people assume it's just another coin, but collectors know better. And now you do too. So here's the big question. What's the most someone has actually paid for one of these coins? In a stunning example, a 1965 Washington quarter, featuring a rare transitional error, struck on a silver planchet, and preserved in near-perfect condition, was reportedly sold at auction for an astonishing $81,000. Yes, you heard me right. A quarter. Just 25 cents. Sold for $81,000. This is the reason people get into coin collecting. It's not just about the money, it's the history, the thrill of the hunt, and the possibility that something amazing is sitting right in front of you, disguised as something ordinary. So, the next time you're sorting through change, take an extra moment when you see a 1965 quarter. Look closely. Weigh it if you can. If it looks perfect, or feels heavier than usual, or shows signs of a minting error, it might just be one of the rarest and most valuable coins of the modern era. Top 2, we're going deep into a fascinating piece of American currency, one that millions have handled without ever realizing how truly valuable it can be. It's the 1967 Washington quarter. A coin that's not only rich in history, but could also be worth an absolute fortune. And yes, I mean tens of thousands of dollars in the right condition. So stick with me to the end, because you might just discover that a simple coin sitting in your change jar is far more than what it seems. Let's rewind to the late 1960s. By 1967. The United States was in the middle of a transition, a financial and social shift that even affected our coinage. 2 years earlier, in 1965, the U.S. Mint had officially stopped producing quarters with silver due to the rising cost of the metal. Instead of the traditional 90% silver composition, quarters were now being made from a copper-nickel clad, a move that changed not just the metal, but the entire collecting landscape. The 1967 quarter was part of that change. It was minted in large numbers, over 1.5 billion coins, which makes it seem incredibly common. But here's where things get interesting. Not all 1967 quarters are created equal. What separates a regular coin from one worth thousands comes down to two powerful factors: minting errors and exceptional condition. Now, here's something you might not know. In 1967, the U.S. Mint made a decision that made this year's coinage extra unique. Due to coin hoarding and a shortage of coins in circulation, they did not use mint marks that year. That's right, no D for Denver or P for Philadelphia. All 1967 quarters were left without a mint mark, making error tracking a little trickier, but even more exciting for collectors. So, let's talk about the rare errors that turn these ordinary quarters into highly sought-after collectibles. First up is the double die error. These occur when a coin is struck twice by the die, resulting in a ghosted or doubled image, especially in the lettering or on Washington's face. It's subtle, but if you know what to look for, it can be incredibly valuable. A 1967 quarter with clear doubling on Liberty, or In God We Trust, instantly grabs the attention of seasoned collectors. Another rare and exciting error is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet isn't properly aligned in the coin press. The result? A quarter that looks dramatically shifted, sometimes with part of the design missing altogether. The more off-center the strike, especially past 50%, the more valuable the coin. Next, we have the clip planchet error, where it looks like a bite has been taken out of the coin. This happens when the metal sheet wasn't fed into the press correctly, resulting in a quarter that's missing a curved chunk. These quirky-looking coins are rare and extremely collectible. Then there's the transitional error, one of the holy grails of coin collecting. Although the U.S. Mint officially stopped using silver for quarters in 1964, a few blank silver planchets may have accidentally made their way into the presses in 1967. That means there are possibly a handful of 1967 quarters struck on silver blanks instead of the standard copper-nickel composition. These coins are extremely rare, and identifying one could mean discovering a true hidden treasure. You can test for silver by weighing the coin. A normal clad quarter weighs around 5.67 grams, but a silver one will be closer to 6.25 grams. That tiny difference could be worth thousands. Now, even if your 1967 quarter has no error, it can still be worth a pretty penny if it's in exceptional condition. Coins that have been preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition and graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC are rare, especially for a coin from a high-production year like 1967. Add an error to that mint state condition, and now you're talking serious money. And that brings us to the most exciting part of the video. The kind of story that fuels the passion of collectors around the world. 1967 Washington quarter, featuring a rare transitional minting error and preserved in nearly flawless condition, reportedly sold for an astonishing $78,000 at auction. Yes, you heard that right. A single quarter, just 25 cents. Sold for $78,000. That's the magic of numismatics. It's not just about metal. It's about the story behind the coin, the history it represents, the rare flaws that make it one of a kind, and the thrill of discovering something extraordinary in the most unexpected places. So, what should you do now? Start looking. Check your coin jars, your old wallets, and your pocket change. Look closely at any 1,967 quarters you find. Weigh them. Inspect them for errors. If something seems unusual, don't ignore it. get it professionally appraised and graded. That ordinary-looking coin could turn out to be a one-in-a-million discovery. Top 3, we're about to shine a spotlight on a coin that millions of people have spent, tossed aside, or never even given a second glance, but those in the know understand it could be worth a small fortune. Today, we're talking about the 1970 Washington quarter, a seemingly ordinary coin with an extraordinary secret. And by the end of this video, you'll learn why certain rare versions of this coin have fetched as much as $75,000. That's right. One of the most overlooked coins in circulation could turn out to be your next big discovery. So sit tight, because we're diving into the rich history, shocking errors, and hidden secrets of the 1970 quarter. One of the most intriguing modern coins in U.S. history. Let's start with a little background. The Washington quarter has been a staple of American coinage since 1932. By 1970, it had already been circulating for nearly 40 years. But something important had changed just a few years earlier. The U.S. had stopped using silver in quarters starting in 1965. From that point on, all quarters were made with a copper-nickel-clad composition, cheaper, more durable, but a lot less shiny and valuable, at least at first glance. Now here's where the story gets good. The 1970 quarter was part of a high mintage year, and most of them were produced with no major fanfare. But tucked away in that massive production run are a few coins that didn't follow the rules. Coins that were struck with major minting errors or on wrong planchets, or that display rare variations that weren't meant to exist. And these are the coins collectors are going absolutely wild over. Let's break down the main reasons why a 1970 quarter could be worth more than you ever imagined. First and foremost, the proof coin struck on a Canadian coin. Yes, you heard that right. In a stunning minting mistake, at least one 1970 Washington quarter proof was struck on a 1967 Canadian quarter planchet. That's a foreign coin blank used accidentally by the U.S. Mint. This type of error is known as an off-metal strike, and it's incredibly rare. What makes it even more fascinating is that this mistake was discovered on a proof coin, which is supposed to be flawless, specially struck for collectors, and never intended to contain errors. The irony? That error made it one of the most valuable quarters ever sold. Another error that collectors love is the double die obverse. This occurs when the coin is struck more than once by a misaligned die, causing doubled lettering or details, especially noticeable in the words Liberty or In God We Trust. If you spot that kind of doubling, you're holding something special. Next up, off-center strikes and clipped planchets. These are errors where the coin is either struck out of alignment or a part of the blank is missing. The result? A bizarre-looking quarter that instantly catches a collector's eye. Depending on how severe and clean the error is, these coins can be worth hundreds or even thousands. And let's not forget about transitional errors, coins struck with features from different years or on leftover materials from past runs. While most transitional errors occurred earlier in the 1960s, every now and then, odd planchets show up in later years like 1970. A quarter from this year showing traces of a silver composition or even a different denomination could be a real anomaly and worth serious money. Now let's talk about grading and condition. Even if your 1970 quarter doesn't have a dramatic mint error, its value could skyrocket if it's in mint state condition, especially if it's been graded MS67, MS68, or even higher by top grading agencies like PCGS or NGC. High-grade examples from this year are surprisingly hard to find, making them more valuable to collectors who are trying to complete pristine sets. The key takeaway? The 1970 quarter isn't just another coin in your change. It could be a rare, history-packed artifact, especially if it was part of a minting mistake, struck on a foreign planchet, or preserved in perfect condition. So now, the big question. What is the highest known value ever paid for a 1970 Washington quarter? In one extraordinary case, a 1970 S-proof quarter struck on a 1967 silver Canadian quarter and fully authenticated, sold at public auction for an incredible total of $75,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. A simple quarter, 25 cents, sold for $75,000. This isn't a myth. It's real. And it's exactly why coin collecting continues to inspire, excite, and sometimes even change people's lives. So here's what you need to do. Start checking your change. Look closely at any 1,970 quarters you come across. Examine them under a magnifier. Weigh them if possible. Watch for unusual edges, odd weights, doubling, off-center designs, or strange planchet colors. And if you suspect you've got something out of the ordinary, get it professionally graded. It just might be the best investment you ever made. Top for we're about to unlock the secret value behind a coin that thousands of people use every day without ever realizing what could be hiding in plain sight. We're talking about a simple piece of American change that might just change your life. If you know what to look for, get ready, because we're diving deep into the mystery and magic of the 1972 Washington quarter. But it may look like any other quarter you've used at a vending machine, dropped in a parking meter, or flipped in a coin toss. But some special versions of the 1972 quarter are hiding rare features and minting mistakes that could make them incredibly valuable to collectors. So valuable, in fact, that one specific 1972 quarter has sold for a jaw-dropping $72,000. So stick around as we break down what makes the 1972 quarter so special, which errors and variants you should look out for, and how to spot the difference between a regular 25-cent piece and one that could pay your next year's rent. Let's take a quick step back in history. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate George Washington's 200th birthday. Over time, it became a standard part of U.S. currency, but by the 1970s, the design was so familiar that many people barely looked at it anymore. But collectors know, even familiar coins can carry rare surprises. That be why 1972 quarters were no longer made with silver. The U.S. Mint had transitioned fully to a copper-nickel-clad composition, introduced in 1965. This change was part of a cost-saving effort, but it also opened the door to some unexpected and incredibly valuable minting errors. Let's talk about those errors, because this is where the real excitement begins. Point one of the most famous and valuable errors you might find on a 1972 quarter is the double die error. This occurs when the coin is struck twice by a slightly misaligned die, creating a shadowed or doubled appearance in the lettering or design. It's most visible in words like liberty, in God we trust, and even in the date, 1972. These double die quarters are rare and command huge premiums in the numismatic market. Another key error to watch for is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank is not perfectly centered under the die during the minting process. You might see quarters with part of the design shifted or even missing. The more off-center the coin, especially beyond 50%, the rarer and more desirable it becomes. Then there's the clipped planchet error, where part of the metal blank is cut off before the coin is struck. The result is a coin that looks like it has a bite taken out of it, literally. These errors are not only visually fascinating, but also quite rare, especially on quarters from the 1970s. But another rare and highly prized mistake involves strikes on the wrong planchet, also known as an off-metal error. This is when a quarter is accidentally struck on a blank mint for a different denomination, like a dime or a foreign coin. These are extremely rare, and they often pass through unnoticed until a sharp-eyed collector spots something unusual. Even more fascinating are the coins that appear normal to the average person but are worth serious money due to one specific factor: condition. Collectors put a huge premium on coins that are in mint state. That is, coins that have never been in circulation and show no signs of wear. A 1972 quarter graded as MS67 or higher by trusted grading companies like PCGS or NGC can be worth hundreds or even thousands on condition alone. Now, imagine combining a high grade with a dramatic error, like a double die or an off-center strike. That's the kind of coin that makes headlines. You might be wondering, if so many of these quarters were minted, what makes any of them valuable? Well, here's the catch. Over 300 million 1972 quarters were produced, but very few were preserved in perfect condition, and even fewer left the mint with major errors. Most coins were used and abused in everyday circulation. That's why finding one in pristine condition, or with a unique flaw, is like striking gold. And speaking of striking gold, let's talk about the most exciting part of all. Point one particular 1972 Washington quarter, believed to be struck on the wrong planchet and preserved in near-perfect mint state condition, made its way to public auction. With its remarkable error and flawless presentation, it became one of the most talked-about quarters in the collecting world, and the final sale price, a jaw-dropping $72,000. That's right, a quarter, just 25 cents, sold for $72,000. This isn't a collector's myth or urban legend. It's a documented sale. And it's proof that even the smallest, Most ordinary coins in your collection, or even in your pocket right now, could be worth a fortune if you know what to look for. So what should you do next? Start searching. Check your change, your old coin jars, even rolls of quarters from the bank. Get yourself a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe and examine every detail of your 1972 quarters. Look for doubling. Weigh them for unusual planchets. Study the edges. Look for minting mistakes or off-center designs that if you think you've found something unusual, get it professionally graded. You never know. You might be holding a coin that could change your life. And don't forget to let us know in the comments if you found anything exciting. We love hearing your stories and sharing in the thrill of the hunt with our fellow collectors. Top 5, we're diving into the fascinating world of the 1974 Washington quarter, a coin that most people have seen 1,000 times, but few truly understand just how valuable it can be. If you think this quarter is just another piece of pocket change, think again. Because this coin has some rare secrets and unique features that can make it worth a small fortune. Stick with me as we unravel the history, the errors, the rarity, and the collector's appeal of the 1974 Washington quarter. By the end of this video, you'll know why some examples of this coin have sold for an eye-popping $69,000. Let's start by setting the scene. The 1974 quarter is part of a long-running series honoring George Washington, the nation's first president. By this time, the quarter had been copper-nickel clad for nearly a decade, after the switch away from silver in 1965. Although millions of these coins were minted, most circulated widely, and the common ones are usually worth just face value. But as with many coins, the devil is in the details. Now, what makes the 1974 quarter truly fascinating for collectors? First off, let's talk about minting errors, because these are where the magic happens. Among the most sought-after 1974 quarters are those with double die errors. This means the coin was struck twice, but the two impressions didn't perfectly line up. The result? Letters or numbers that look doubled, sometimes dramatically so. Imagine seeing Liberty or the date 1974 with ghostly shadows that make the coin instantly stand out. These double die errors are a numismatic jackpot. Another notable error type that can appear on 1974 quarters is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin blank is not perfectly centered during striking, causing part of the design to be cut off or shifted. The more off-center the strike, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes. Collectors love these kinds of visually unusual coins because they tell a story about the minting process. Then there's the elusive clipped planchet error, where a portion of the metal blank is missing before the coin is struck. This gives the coin an odd shape or a bite out of its edge. Clipped planchets from the 1970s are rare and highly desirable, especially when the clipping is large and the coin remains in good condition. Let's not forget the importance of condition and grading. Even without errors, a 1974 Washington quarter in pristine, mint-state condition, graded MS67 or higher, can command a premium because most coins from this era show signs of wear. Coins that are perfectly preserved, with sharp details and no damage, are prized by collectors building high-quality sets. One more fascinating aspect involves off-metal strikes, where a quarter is accidentally struck on a blank mint for a different coin or foreign currency. These errors are extremely rare and can turn an otherwise ordinary quarter into a mind-blowing collectible. So, how rare are these error coins from 1974? While millions of quarters were minted, only a handful of these special errors survive in high-grade condition. That's why collectors are willing to pay top dollar for them, sometimes amounting to tens of thousands of dollars. Speaking of dollars, here's the moment you've been waiting for: a rare 1974 Washington quarter. Especially one with a dramatic minting error and in exceptional condition, has been known to fetch an astonishing price of $69,000. That's right, a quarter worth nearly $70,000. This incredible value highlights just how exciting the world of coin collecting can be. A small, everyday coin could suddenly be worth a small fortune, simply because of a mistake in the mint or perfect preservation. If you've got a collection or a jar full of quarters, now's the time to take a closer look at your 1974 Washington quarters. Grab a magnifying glass, check for doubling, off-center strikes, or anything that looks unusual. You might just have a rare treasure hiding in your hands. We want to hear from you. Have you ever found a rare coin that surprised you with its value? Share your stories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1974 Washington quarter, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more coin adventures, and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on future treasure hunts. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, keep searching, stay curious, and happy collecting.